Hi everyone, today we're looking at changing relationships within families. So there are two key terms that you need to know. The first one is power. So power in this lesson refers to the ability to exercise control over one's own life or the lives of others. And we're briefly going to look at domestic violence, which is behaviour that is used to gain or maintain power and control over an individual. And there are different types of domestic violence, which can include physical, sexual, emotional, financial, or psychological abuse. And we'll look at that later. So firstly, all I would like you to think about is who has the most power in your family. So you don't need to actually type the answer to this, just something for you to think about. So who do you think has the most power? Is it your mum, your dad? Is it an older relative, perhaps a grandparent? Is it someone that you're not blood related to? Is it even perhaps a sibling or yourself? So who has the most power, do you think? And who makes the big decisions in your family? So decisions like where you're going to live, what school you go to, where you go on holiday, those sorts of things, big financial decisions and life decisions. So there's two pieces of sociological research we need to look at first. Stephen Edgell is the first sociologist, and he interviewed middle-class couples and found that men had decision-making control over important things, such as purchasing a house, car, bills, and women had decision-making control over minor things, so things like home decorating, food shopping, etc. And this was linked to the fact that men earned more money. This research is slightly outdated. It was conducted in 1980. But what I want you to think about is, do you think this still is true today? Do men still have decision-making power over the most important things and women the minor things? Or do you think it's evened out more in today's society? And that's why I asked you to think about your own household, who has the most power. Does your family fit in with what Stephen Edgell was saying, or is it more equal? Jan Powell found that money management depended on who earned the most money in the house. And she found that very few women had financial independence if they were unemployed or in part-time work. So this research might help to explain Edgell's research as well. It might help to explain why men had more decision-making control over the important things, because they tended to earn more money compared to women, because they have that breadwinning role of going out and working and bringing in money. And that might be why they have most decision-making power. And it would also help to explain why this has started to even out when we look at today's society, because men and women are likely to be dual earner households, so both working, both earning money. And compared to the past, women are earning more than they used to. So that might be why they have more independence in how they spend their own money. She also found that younger couples were more likely to be financially independent from each other, so they didn't need to rely on each other for money compared to the older generation. And again, that might be because of that shift in women's employment. So why do you think younger couples are likely to be financially independent? And why do you think decision-making power is linked to how much money is earned? So if you just want to answer those two questions, just type the answers. Okay, now we're going to look at what the different theoretical perspectives say about roles in the family. So you've got functionalists, Marxists, and feminists. So functionalists say that Parsons is a functionalist, and he says that men and women have naturally separate roles, with the woman being the housewife doing the expressive role, which means, doing chores around the house, taking care of children, doing the emotion work, and the man is the breadwinner. So this is known as the instrumental role, where he's bringing in the money into the house. So these are roles that are naturally separate, according to Parsons. He also says that the family performs the role of primary socialization, where boys learn to adopt the instrumental role and girls learn to adopt the expressive role. So this is known as gender role socialization. So it's boys and girls learning norms and values that are associated with their gender. So girls learning things like how to take care of children. Like if you look at dollies, girls often look after dollies. They have little prams where they push them around. Parsons says this is evidence of girls learning to do the expressive role. And if you look at boys and the sort of toys they're given, perhaps more construction toys and mathematical toys. That's preparing them for that instrumental role of gaining the skills ready to go out to work. Parsons also argues that modern life is very stressful, and it's the role of the family to de-stress adults, and this helps to reduce conflict in wider society. If you imagine a worker going out to work, they get really stressed and they come home and they perhaps tell their family about how horrible their day is. The family acts as like a warm bath to try and relieve the stress from that person. So that's why Parsons calls it warm bath theory, where the family is trying to relax that person. They believe all of this is really good because it helps society to run smoothly. If you imagine if like the dad goes out to work and earns money and then isn't de-stressed by his wife and children, it could lead him to causing conflict in society. It could lead him to committing crimes or even dropping out of work altogether. So actually the family's got a really important job in trying to relax workers and make sure that they're ready to work again. And that's a good thing because it means society runs well. Marxists take an opposite approach where they think that actually men and women have unequal roles in the family, but it's a bad thing. So they agree with functionalists that men do the instrumental role, women do the expressive role, but they disagree with it being good. They think actually it's bad because it supports an unfair capitalist system. So remember, a capitalist system is the current system that we have, where people are paid to work in or work for the bourgeoisie being the rich, the proletariat being the poor, and the bourgeoisie exploiting the proletariat. Women stay at home and do unpaid housework and childcare, and this benefits capitalism because it raises the next generation of workers for free. Zaretsky is a Marxist, and he argues that the family is also a unit of consumption, and that means it purchases goods and services that benefits the bourgeoisie. This is because the bourgeoisie make a profit on these goods and services. And so families actually help to support capitalism by keeping inequality in place, by buying things like washing machines, clothes, holidays. They're actually allowing the bourgeoisie to exploit them by profiteering from the goods that they buy. Zaretsky also says that the family helps to reduce stress on adults, and that is the same as what functionalists say, but they disagree in that they think that it's a bad thing. Actually, if the family helps reduce stress on adults, it supports capitalism. So workers are de-stressed by the family, making them ready to go back to work and be exploited all over again. So they agree that the functionalists and Marxists agree that the family is like a warm bath. It de-stresses the husband, the breadwinner, when he comes home. But they disagree. Functionalists think it's a good thing and Marxists think it's a bad thing. So just remember, when you're thinking about anything to do with Marxism, that they think capitalism is bad because it creates inequality between the rich and the poor. Anything that helps capitalism is also bad in their view. So lastly, then we've got the feminist view of roles in the family. So Anne Oakley is a feminist sociologist who interviewed 40 married women, and she found that housewives spent on average 77 hours a week on housework. And this obviously, if you contrast this with a full-time paid job, full-time paid jobs are usually around 35 to 40 hours a week. So they're doing significantly more than a paid full-time job. And housework was the least satisfying part of being a housewife, according to these women. And she also found that 25% of husbands had a high level of participation in childcare. So essentially what Oakley was arguing was that roles in the family positively affect men and negatively affect women. Radical feminists take this further, and they say that men benefit most from family life because they're the ones that get to make all the important decisions. And also when women go out to work, they still have to do the housework. It's not like, if they stop being a housewife and get paid work, that the roles start being shared. They are still expected to do both jobs, which is, remember that concept we learned about before, the dual burden or the triple shift. They're doing more than one thing. And they also found that men are doing more than they used to, which is positive, but women are still doing significantly more. So often they also often argue that the amount of work that men do in the household is exaggerated. So feminists argue that Wilmot and Young's idea of the symmetrical family, where roles are equal, are exaggerated, and men still do considerably less housework and childcare compared to women. So women do not benefit from the family compared to men. So if you could please complete the summary table of what you've learned from those last 3 slides. I've put evaluation there. So if we're looking at getting 7s, 8s and 9s in our exams, we want to be thinking as well about how we can criticise these theories. So if we want to criticise functionalists, we could say functionalists are too positive and they ignore conflict in the family. We know that not all families help to reduce stress for each other. Actually, it can cause stress. We can also say that their ideas on men and women having biological roles is a negative. We could say it perhaps is not even true. And also that it disadvantages women and those separate roles are unfair. If we want to criticise Marxism, we could say Marxists focus too much on class and they ignore inequality between men and women. They only focus on inequality between the rich and poor. Marxists ignore the benefits of the nuclear family. It's too negative. It says that it helps to maintain exploitation in a capitalist system. But actually, most people enjoy living in a family and they enjoy the benefits of family life. And then feminism, we can say that feminism is perhaps not quite correct because it ignores that men and women are becoming more equal than before. It says that it's exaggerated how equal they are, but actually we could say that maybe some of the research, like Anne Oakley's research, is outdated. It places too much emphasis on the negative side of family life, again, assuming that women don't like childcare, assuming that they don't get satisfaction from household chores, and does not consider that some women, enjoy running the home, they enjoy being married, they enjoy the comfort of family life. So moving on to a slightly different topic, domestic violence. So we've got that definition that I gave you at the start. I'd like you to think of reasons why victims of domestic violence do not report crime. And we're going to be looking at this when we do crime and deviance in year 10. So it goes across the families topic, but also the crime and deviance topic. And the reason why we're looking at this now is because it's evidence of how functionalists are wrong, that sometimes the nuclear family can be a negative place. Family life is not always good, but also it highlights power relations in families and who has power. So why is it that some victims don't report crime? I've got 4 suggestions here. I'd like you to come up with 2 more. So sometimes the victim is ashamed. They might not want to disrupt a child's life. If it's a woman that has been a victim, she may have children with the abuser and may not want to disrupt their life because they might have to split up or the children might get taken away. The victim might be financially dependent on the abuser. So if the husband is the main breadwinner, the wife may not feel that they can leave. And sometimes victims feel like the police will not take it seriously because it's very difficult to prove. It happens behind closed doors. Usually it's one person's word against another's. So can you think of 2 other reasons why people may not report incidences of domestic violence? So there's 2 clips here I'd like you to have a little look at. The first one is about ways domestic violence can be tackled. But the second one is about why do we think men do not report as much as women? So domestic violence does affect women, according to official statistics, it affects women more so than men. Domestic violence affects around 1 in 4 women at some point in their lives. And it takes on average 2.3 years for a high-risk victim to seek help. And if you compare this to 1 in 6 men experiencing domestic violence, we can see that women are more likely, but also men just don't report it. So maybe our statistics are not actually accurate. Maybe there's lots of men out there who just simply haven't reported this to police, and so we don't know that it's even happening. So this link here is an extreme example of a man who suffered domestic violence at the hands of his partner. Really cruel things, burning and beating and things like that. So if you are a bit worried about watching that, you don't have to watch it. But the reason why I want you to look at it is because it really highlights, it's a man talking about his experience and why he felt that it was difficult to report. So it is a useful clip. So finally, if you could please have a go at answering the true or false questions here, and then just send over your answers to your teacher by Friday. If you haven't completed the work that has been set since school closure, you've got all of summer holidays to catch up. I will answer my emails. So if you want to just send me an email because you're stuck on some work, I will check my emails over summer so I can help you. That's all for today. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye.